The South China Sea is one of the world's most vital maritime corridors, serving as a lifeline for global commerce. Every year, trillions of dollars worth of goods pass through these waters, making it a crucial artery for international trade. In fact, nearly a third of all global shipping travels through this region, connecting major economies in Asia, the Middle East, and beyond. The sea's bustling shipping lanes are a testament to its importance, with container vessels, oil tankers, and cargo ships constantly on the move. But the South China Sea is more than just a highway for ships. Its rich fisheries support the livelihoods of millions of people across Southeast Asia, providing a vital source of food and income. The sea is also believed to hold vast reserves of oil and natural gas, making it a key resource for energy-hungry nations in the region. For countless coastal communities, these waters are essential for survival and prosperity. Its immense strategic and economic value has made the South China Sea a hotspot for overlapping territorial claims. Several countries, including China, the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei, assert sovereignty over parts of these waters. The competition for control is fierce, as each nation seeks to secure access to resources and safeguard their maritime boundaries. Diplomatic negotiations and summits are frequent, but so are tensions and disagreements. At the heart of the dispute is China's sweeping 9-line claim, which covers most of the South China Sea and overlaps with the exclusive economic zones of its neighbors. This expansive claim has fueled decades of disputes, leading to frequent confrontations at sea, standoffs between Coast Guard vessels, and even the construction of artificial islands. The situation remains volatile, with each incident raising the risk of escalation. For the Philippines, these contested waters, known locally as the West Philippine Sea, are not just a matter of pride, but of survival. They are crucial for food security, as Filipino fishermen depend on these rich fishing grounds. The area is also vital for energy exploration, with hopes of tapping into undersea oil and gas reserves. Above all, defending these waters is seen as essential to protecting the nation's sovereignty and future. The involvement of the United States and other global powers adds another layer of complexity. Their naval patrols and joint exercises are meant to uphold freedom of navigation and deter unilateral actions, but they also heighten tensions and bring major military forces into close proximity. The South China Sea has become a stage for great power competition with global implications. In this tangled web of interests and rivalries, diplomacy, international law, and military power are constantly in play. The South China Sea remains a high-stakes arena, where the future of the region and the rules that govern the world's oceans are being shaped every day. The greatest threat in the South China Sea isn't a single ship, or even a single nation. It's the absence of a shared framework, an invisible danger that shapes every encounter on these contested waters. With no enforceable rules, the sea becomes a stage for uncertainty and risk. Maritime boundaries blur, and the lack of clear authority means that disputes can spiral out of control with little warning. Without a binding code of conduct, every encounter, no matter how routine, carries the potential for escalation. For the Philippines, whose navy is dwarfed by China's massive fleet, each patrol is a test of resolve and restraint, a daily gamble in a high-stakes game. ASEAN and China have spent decades at the negotiating table, searching for common ground. Yet, after years of talks, only a weak, non-binding declaration exists, one that is often ignored and rarely enforced. The result is a patchwork of promises, not a shield of protection. This legal vacuum allows China to steadily advance its interests, building artificial islands, deploying Coast Guard ships, and sending maritime militia into disputed waters. With no real consequences, these actions go largely unchecked, shifting the balance of power further in China's favor. The Philippines is left in a reactive position, forced to respond to repeated incursions and provocations. Without a reliable system to prevent or resolve these incidents, Filipino sailors and fishermen face constant uncertainty and risk at sea. A binding code of conduct would change the equation. It would set clear boundaries, establish consequences for violations, and create a framework for peaceful resolution. Such a code could transform the South China Sea from a battleground of power plays to a region governed by rules and mutual respect. Until that day comes, the Philippines remains exposed, navigating a sea where might too often trumps right, and where the absence of rules leaves the smallest voices most at risk. The dangers of a lawless sea are real for the Philippines, with maritime incidents growing more frequent and severe. Chinese Coast Guard vessels have used water cannons and dangerous maneuvers to block Philippine supply boats, risking lives and escalating tensions. Collisions and near misses are now common, each one a potential spark for wider conflict. Filipino fishermen are driven from traditional grounds, threatening livelihoods and food security. These tactics aim to assert de facto control over contested waters. The psychological toll on Filipino crews is immense, as they face constant harassment. Without clear rules, every incident risks spiraling out of control. The urgent need for a binding code of conduct has never been clearer. In 2016, the Philippines won a landmark legal victory at The Hague, marking a significant moment in international maritime law. The tribunal ruled that China's 9-line, which claims vast swathes of the South China Sea, has no basis under international law. This decision was a major blow to China's expansive territorial claims. The decision affirmed the Philippines' rights to its exclusive economic zone, granting it sovereign rights over the resources within this area. This was a crucial affirmation for the Philippines, which relies heavily on these waters for fishing and other maritime activities. The ruling also condemned China's interference and island-building activities, which have included the construction of artificial islands and military installations in disputed waters. Yet China rejected the ruling outright, dismissing it as null and void. Chinese officials have repeatedly stated that they do not recognize the tribunal's authority in this matter. Refusing to participate or comply, China's absence from the proceedings was a clear indication of its stance on the issue. This defiance undermines the international rules-based order, challenging the very principles that govern international maritime conduct. The ruling leaves the Philippines with law on its side, providing a strong legal foundation for its claims. However, despite this legal victory, there has been little practical change at sea. Chinese vessels continue to operate in disputed areas, often clashing with Filipino fishermen and patrols. The ruling is a powerful diplomatic tool for the Philippines, bolstering its position in international forums and negotiations, but without enforcement mechanisms, it cannot remove Chinese vessels from the contested waters, leaving the situation largely unchanged. The gap between legal victory and reality highlights the need for a negotiated, binding code of conduct in the South China Sea, which could help manage and resolve disputes. The Philippines continues to cite the award in its diplomatic efforts, using it to garner international support and pressure China. However, it faces a neighbor determined to assert its own rules and maintain its presence in the region. The struggle now is to turn legal rights into real-world security, ensuring that the Philippines can protect its maritime interests and maintain peace in the region. The biggest obstacle to a meaningful code of conduct is China's steadfast opposition. While Beijing talks of stability, it resists any agreement that would truly constrain its actions or be legally binding. China prefers vague principles over enforceable rules, seeking to manage disputes on its own terms. It uses negotiations as a diplomatic shield, buying time to strengthen its presence and control. China's economic and military clout lets it pressure ASEAN members, complicating consensus. The Philippines and others must choose push for a strong code and risk deadlock, or accept a weak deal that changes little. This is the central challenge as the Philippines prepares to lead ASEAN in 2026. ASEAN's consensus model, meant to foster unity, often paralyzes action on the South China Sea. Claimant states like the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei want a strong code of conduct, but others are more cautious or aligned with China. Non-claimants like Indonesia and Singapore value stability, but avoid direct confrontation. Some, like Cambodia and Laos, rely heavily on Chinese support and often block tough ASEAN positions. This internal division makes it hard for the Philippines to rally the bloc behind a binding code. Manila must balance its urgent security needs with the slow pace of ASEAN consensus. The result is often unity at the expense of decisive action. President Marcos Jr. faces a delicate balancing act, defending Philippine interests while keeping diplomatic channels open. Manila has become more assertive, increasing patrols and strengthening alliances with the US, Japan, and Australia. Yet it also maintains dialogue with Beijing, seeking peaceful solutions and cooperation where possible. The strategy firm on sovereignty, flexible in diplomacy. As ASEAN's future chair, The Philippines must align its agenda with the bloc's consensus-driven approach. Building coalitions with like-minded states is key, but so is engaging hesitant members. The challenge is to push for a binding code of conduct as a regional, not just national priority. Success depends on balancing national resolve with regional unity. In 2026, the Philippines will chair ASEAN, giving it a rare chance to set the agenda and push for a binding code of conduct. As chair, Manila must act as both advocate and honest broker, balancing its interests with those of all 10 members. The role demands diplomacy, finding common ground and bridging divides. The groundwork is already being laid, with ongoing negotiations and coalition building. Success will require support from fellow claimants and influential non-claimants alike. 2026 could be a turning point, testing both Philippine diplomacy and ASEAN's unity. A strong code of conduct would reaffirm ASEAN's relevance and the rule of law. Failure would expose deep divisions and weaken the bloc's role in regional security. The stakes for the Philippines and for ASEAN could not be higher. A binding code of conduct is essential for peace and stability in the South China Sea. For the Philippines, it's the best hope to end the cycle of confrontation and secure its rights and resources. Clear rules would reduce risks, protect livelihoods, and prevent dangerous incidents from spiraling into conflict. Success would show that smaller nations, united through diplomacy, can manage disputes with a superpower. It would reinforce ASEAN's central role and the value of international law. The path is difficult, but the alternative, endless tension and eroding norms, is far worse. The Philippines' 2026 chairmanship is a critical opportunity to lead the way. Securing a binding code of conduct is not just a diplomatic goal, it's a necessity for a peaceful future in the South China Sea.